Hello, welcome back to LeadFoot TV. We are finally getting started on some winter work for my 86. Today we're going to be stripping the front off and we're going to be looking at replacing the radiator and fan shroud, which I've recently got through a sponsorship with Mishimoto. So thank you very much to them for that. Let's get cracking. Okay, so front bumper all off. And here is where it gets a bit trickier because on a standard 86 obviously you don't have whack and great turbo. So I'm going to have to fight with intercooler piping because there's just no way that I'm going to be able to get the radiator and fans out from the turbo side. So I think a little bit more stripping down on the front maybe and try and pull it out the front. We'll give it a go.
Wait a minute!
So on closer inspection it looks like it might actually be a little bit easier than I thought, which is a nice change. So instead of messing around with all the intercooler pipe work, this whole bar at the front is actually the full radiator support. Now it looks like if I take two bolts out at each end of the pop clips, disconnect the bonnet release from the front of it there, that whole panel will come out and I should be able to just lift the radiator and fan shroud out from the top. Should. Okay, before we do anything else, we're going to drain the coolant. So, if you can see, focus, just in that gap there, maybe if I go under, here we go. So, just in that gap there, little yellow plug there, that is the coolant drain plug. So we'll get that out, and we'll drain all the coolant, and then we can proceed with getting all the hardware off. This could go one of two ways, it could go really well or it could go really bad. So the drain plug, if you come and have a look at this, opens straight onto a part of the frame, so I'm just going to try and avoid getting coolant all over that part of the frame by sticking a rag under there to catch any drops, but I'm also going to use a bit of pipe. I'm just going to fit that over the end of the spout and guide it into the tub, so hopefully I won't get too much mess, but it could end up just making the whole thing a lot messier. Oh, it's there!
Holy fucking shit! I didn't see that coming.
Interesting. Okay, so the coolant doesn't come out of where the yellow part comes off. There's a little nipple to the side, which I didn't see in the dark there. And now we know I've got blue coolant, so I know what combine it. And then, as well, which I've just remembered, just take off your coolant reservoir cap as well, and that will allow for much better flow. Okay, with the coolant draining, my beautiful assistant and I are going to start taking off that top radiator support. So, once again, you've got two bolts either end, then the pop clip that holds on the air dam, and then also the bonnet release you want to take off as well. Good job it wasn't anything serious. With those nails you can't do anything. Hulk smash! I am healed. You have healed me. The turbo is in the way. So the top support has a bar that goes down which the bonnet release mounts onto. At the bottom of that, which heads all the way down to the bottom of the radiator, there is two 12mm bolts as well. So what we need to do is get under it. There's a metal under tray which needs to come off to access those bolts. So I'm going to jack it up a bit more, get that under tray off, get the bolts out, and then this will lift out. Okay, so now that that metal tray is off, you can see this is the lower radiator support here, and it's these two 12mm bolts that need to come out. So we'll get those out and then that top radiator support should lift out completely. Okay, so those two 12mm bolts are now out down at the bottom. So the last thing to do is this little stud that you can see here is just a holding bracket for your bonnet release. So all you have to do, just crimp that through, push it out, and then your whole support will remove, like so. And that reveals the radiator and fan shroud. and we can get to work getting them off. First things first, we're going to sort out the top hose for the radiator, so we need to remove these 2 bolts that hold on the filler neck, and we will pop off this little hose here, which is for the reservoir. Take those off, and then we can undo the top hose using that clamp there, and then that'll pull away from the radiator. What I'm going to do now is take off the coolant reservoir by taking off these 2 10mm bolts, and that'll come straight out, and then that'll allow us to remove the coolant hose. Right, I'm also going to disconnect the top coolant hose from the actual engine itself as well, so that it'll come away easier basically. Okay, it does actually help taking the driver's side top radiator bracket off to access the top of that radiator hose, so it'll come away more freely. I think with my intercooler piping as well, it's just getting in the way of the coolant hose a bit, so I'm just going to have to take it off in 2 bits. So there's the small bit that goes from the radiator to the filler neck, which I'm going to do as a separate piece, as well as the main bit from the engine to the filler neck. There we go. Right, separate piece. So now I can start taking off the electrics for the fan shroud. Now that that coolant pipe is off from in there, we can now access the electrics for the fan shroud. So that is one on that fan, and flipping it. Somehow we'll try and get the one from that second fan as well behind the turbo. I might be able to get to it if I take the cone filter off. I think I'll have to do that.
I just can't do it, Captain. I don't have the power.
Okay, so the electrics for the fan shroud were a bit of a pain. There was one which was easy enough, which just connects on just here by the side, so you can see that quite easily. But there was one which was further down, which goes across to the second fan, and that was a bit more of a pig. So we actually got that from going underneath, which you might have to as well, just again, because that turbo is in the way of everything. So now we should be able to lift the fan straight out at the top. Right, nimble hands have done the trick, and the fan shroud is now out. I have disconnected the bottom hose to the radiator from there, so we just need to undo a couple of little bits for the main cooling radiator to come away from the aircon radiator, which stays in.
3 days later.
Okay, so we've had to take a quick break. We ran out of time the other day, but the car is entirely stripped down. We've got Ash with us again today.
I've got no idea what I'm doing.
Neither do I. So we're ready to build the 86 back up now. So we've got sexy Mishimoto Radiator and
The fan shroud.
sexy fan shroud. We're at the point where the new radiator can actually go straight in now. Get that fixed in place, attach the AC condenser back onto it, and then the fans can go in. There's a little bit of mounting hardware that goes onto that, which we'll show you in a minute. And then we can get it all back in and then rebuild this mess.
Oh, it wasn't recording.
Take 2.
It was.
Well, just before we put the bits on, I just thought I would show you the differences. So with the radiators, it is quite obvious. There's obviously a lot more width in that, so a lot more cooling power, which will be nice. There's actually nothing wrong with the original unit. I literally just changed it because of the experience that we had at the Nürburgring with the Subaru, and obviously boxer engine Subaru basically. So it is basically preemptive, so that I don't get the same.
This radiator is designed for 200 horsepower and you're
No.
about 300 horsepower. So.
Yeah, about 330. So basically, it needs bringing up to speed, and then after that, I just need to do brakes because I'm not going to brake.
Yeah.
I did the opposite of what I said I would. When I first got the car, I was like, before I put any power through it, I'll do the handling and suspension and braking, and then I can put power in it. And then I bought a turbo. And then the fans, which actually has the new one. With the new fans, this one's a lot lower profile to accommodate for the thicker radiator. So that one's quite thick, that one's quite skinny. I can't remember what the quoted figures are, but apparently they are better at cooling, so better blowing air per minute power. So it's good.
Technical terms.
Yeah. And you can take that to the bank.
I can handle things, I'm smart!
So yeah, that's old versus new. Let's get them in the car. Clap.
Is the fan going on before?
No, so the radiator will drop in, then we fix the AC condenser to the radiator,
Yeah.
then the fan shroud pops in.
Will it not drop in with this on it and then it would just be easier to put in?
I don't know, potentially. Or maybe if we drop that in and then put the radiator in the gap, because also just that to fight past.
Is it going to be enough room?
I really, really fucking hope so. I might cry if not. Nervous!
I'm so fucking scared right now, you shut up!
New radiator going in. Just don't smash it. Fucking turbo. Oh, there. Cool.
So,
Yeah, so there's.
I think before we pull that, we'll try to get the shroud. So,
Yeah.
this would be a lot easier if it didn't have a huge turbo pull into it.
Yeah, I was just very unwilling to remove said turbo.
Yeah.
Let's try something else.
I don't know if this can work. The aircon doesn't work anyway, does it?
No.
What if we take the aircon right now and put it back in?
What, slide it down the front?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can do.
And then we can just go in
If we
like that.
disconnect it at that end, which is just a connector there. I wonder if it'll throw an error code if we just leave it out.
No, it won't.
It's taking the brunt of all the impacts until the intercooler went in.
One, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, let's try again.
So we've just had a change of plans. It wouldn't quite go in. So instead of taking the turbo off, we've taken the aircon rad out to hope that that gives us enough space to slide it in. And then we can slide the aircon rad back in. It had no gas in it. We didn't vent it into the atmosphere. That's why we're all still alive. And then, so we'll put the rad in, try and feed the aircon radiator in. And if that doesn't work, we're gonna have to take the turbo off.
Well, to be fair, I mean, if this doesn't go back in afterwards, then I'll just pull it off.
Yeah,
Because it
well-
hasn't done anything for 5 years, so.
Yeah, it's got absolutely no gas in it. So. Yeah, let's try again.
So it.
I wonder if it's going. It's gonna make much difference.
I think if you put that corner to the front, it works better across the yeah. Ooh, some semblance of business. We're upside down. God, I thought you were the one who knew what you were doing.
I was more bothered about getting in. I wasn't paying attention to
Can you
which way
imagine
up
if
it was.
it had got in nice and snug, only just gone in and then it's upside down?
I wonder if now we could probably feed the fan in that after. Couldn't we?
You're stuck.
Get the rad in.
Yeah, quite possible.
Push it. Get the rad in.
Tip
pull
it
it
back.
forward.
Yeah,
and then-
into the space where this would be. Yeah. It's not-
so we're going again. That didn't work. So we're gonna try and fit the radiator in, pull it as far forward into the space where the aircon rad would be, and then that should give us the extra few mil to get the fans in.
Should.
So then we can move the radiator back into its position, bolt the fans to the radiator, and then put the aircon rad in theory.
In the space of all this as well, we also do have an oil cooler as well, which restricts us even more. One piece. Yeah, scoot that back as far as possible.
So that's where the radiator would sit. So what we're going to do is just push it as far forward as possible, and then give us enough space to slide the fans in. Still very tight.
Yeah.
We just need to get past this piece here.
Yeah.
And past that side.
Ooh, hello. Might be in business.
Well, right, I need to get my bracket underneath that bottom hose.
Oh, yeah. Fine. Pull back. Potentially.
Slide in that way as far as we can.
That's on there. Right, now if we redo those two 10mm bolts before we put pins for the rad in. Just to, basically just as a cable tidy, there's these two like grommets with zip ties on the end, and they are put in strategic points on the fan shroud to guide the wires, and then you just keep them in place if you've got small hands and no turbo.
You know the video of Paul Walker working on the car really easily? This is the in real life version.
Okay, so if you get a look in there, that's both the electrical connectors rigged up now. I've just got one more of the zip tie grommets to put in just to keep them from wafting around too much. Then we can establish the pins which sit into these rubber seats in the frame, and then the radiator and the fan shroud will be in place, and we can get the top radiator mounts put back in, and then we can proceed with hopefully getting the aircon rad back in, and if not, sack it off and rebuild it from the car. What? Did you just exchange a look like that?
No.
Dumbass! I'm like Simon Pegg in the Mission Impossible films on the comic relief.
Just not smart.
Thanks, mate. Fuck me. Right. Cable tidy's in place, pin in, Ash can fuck off. Is that bottom pin in place?
It is. Yeah.
Right, we need the bottom coolant hose in. Do you think you can manage that? You're going to be mean to me. Okay, so just while Ash is putting the bottom coolant hose on, after a while, I'm just going to put the mounting hardware onto the fan shroud. This is for the coolant reservoir. So there's two dowel pin type pieces. There's a shorter one and a longer one. And then there's also this small plate here. So on the reservoir bottle, there's a little tab on the bottom there, and when it sits in the car about here, that tab just sits into the bottom of that plate and just holds it still. And then you've got two bolt holes for the reservoir, and obviously these dowels line up to them respectively. So we'll get that put on now. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We're just needing to separate the fan shroud from the radiator because the dowels bolt on from behind the fan shroud. So I overlooked that bit. I'm just trying to be good. Right.
It's quite a well-made kit, this.
It's not bad actually.
Like, you just get a radiator and some universal fans, and you have to kind of try and make everything fit.
It's relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
If you just pay attention to, like instructions. Did you get her?
Shazam!
Okay, so all the mounting hardware is now in place, those two dowels and the bottom bracket, all tested to make sure the coolant bottle lines up. So now we are on to fixing the radiator in place.
Yeah. So these are top mounts, they just bolt underneath where the T-bar goes into the chassis. So we'll put those back in now, and it'll hold the radiator up out of the way so that we can potentially get the aircon ran.
Potentially being the operative one. So there's a little peg just on the bracket as well. There is a little square hole in the chassis that slots into just to help line it all up. It's filled with me sticking my tongue out basically.
I have to admit, I've caught the worst angle of you.
Fucking punching Judy face and then Gollum comes out.
What did you say?
There is a little window that I can just see through.
No, I can't. There's no way I can pull it.
Is that?
The bottom might have to come off and bolt back on. So this is a bit more of a jigsaw than it would be normally.
It's going back together a lot more difficult than it came apart.
Because if you're not turboed, you also have all this window in the bottom part, where we've got an intercooler sat. So that's blocking our view quite a lot. Because normally we could just get up behind there and fit these bolts in, but we're very restricted for space.
And as we found when we were taking it apart, these 4 bolt holes on the AC condenser, they need to be used as well, annoyingly.
It's you might get it in, but then those oil cooler lines are just going to rub a hole through it.
Sack it off then.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's not doing anything.
I wonder if you can get
There'll be a blanking plate.
like a shorter belt, so that you can just take the aircon pump completely off.
Yeah, I'd like to do a full aircon delete.
So at the moment we're just refitting the top radiator hose, which is in 2 pieces. So
which actually helps, to be fair, with the intercooler piping specifically.
Yeah, so you've got one piece to here, then to a joiner that has the reservoir top up in it, and then a small piece here. So it's easier to leave this unbolted, and then you've got a bit more flex to play with to get that back together.
How did I get it on and says stone?
You'll have to know.
Watch this. So we're going to take the radiator back out again.
No! God, please, no! No!
Do you recognise these?
Heavy set washers.
Yeah.
Old school.
From back in the good old days.
Yeah.
Okay, so all the radiator surroundings are now back in place. That horn is relocated, the air sensor is tied in place. We are basically ready for the bumper to go back on. So first thing to do is get your T-bar back in place. I've already slotted it down there, so now I'm just going to replace the 2 12mm bolts which are at the bottom of that T section. So I'll do that and then we can get the top bolted on. Bonnet release is back in place and working, thankfully. T-bar is all secure, all the different bits are in place. So just got this little air dam to put on at the front here. So use a stupid amount of pop clips that are annoying and should be in the bin. Okay, so the under tray is now back on and I have got the bumper in place ready to go back on. I'll just remove my tools because we don't want to be trapping anything in there. And the bumper can go on, and then we are done for the day. Okay, so that is how to, after a fashion, install Mishimoto Radiator and fan shroud on a boosted GT86 or BRZ. So Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks to Ash for helping out, putting it back together, because that was a ball ache.
It would have been dead easy if
Yes.
the turbo hadn't have been there. I think because of the turbo being there, it restricted our space from both sides because of the intercooler and the turbo. But
basically,
we could have taken the intercooler off and made it easier, but we didn't.
basically, in our usual fashion, I made life more difficult for myself.
But it's really good kit. Like I'm
Yes,
impressed.
it went together really well.
Yeah, impressed how high quality it is. Like all the added little details, like to hold the header tank and stuff, and things like that. That wasn't the air filter just falling off.
So we hope you enjoyed the video. Check back in with us because we will have a couple more how-tos on some other bits. Of course, we removed the AC radiator, so I've got a bit of aircon deleting to do. So check back in with us at some point soon and we will show you how to do that. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, peace out.